Welcome to the Teacher's Compass podcast. I'm your host, Louise Schwartz, a former teacher turned life coach, and I'm here to offer guidance, direction and practical support for teachers and teaching assistants who are feeling overwhelmed or questioning their place in education. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Teacher's Compass podcast. How are you this week? How's it been going? I hope you are enjoying a relaxed week this week. But I'm guessing as we run up to Christmas, things are getting busier and that might not be the case. So this week I wanted to talk about how you can enjoy this time of year around Christmas time by setting some boundaries. Now I know as teachers we might not be the best at setting boundaries, so that's why I wanted to talk about it today, to try and see if I can encourage you to think about areas that you can set some boundaries so that you can enjoy a better work-life balance. Ultimately, that's what we all want, isn't it? To have time for our family, time for our friends, but also enjoy the time that we do spend working. So why do we need boundaries as teachers? Well, most teachers would spend all of their working day doing the jobs that need to be done on their to-do list and spending time doing things for others. So I've been reading a book this week called The 4 Tendencies, which was written by a lady called Gretchen Rubin. And it's a brilliant book all about the 4 sort of main personality types and how we all fit into those 4 different types. So there are upholders, obligers, questioners, and rebels. So each of those 4 personality types they fall into categories. So ones that are happy to meet the expectations of others, those that are happy to meet the expectations of themselves, and those that don't want to meet expectations of either. So each of those 4 tendencies has a combination of those different things. It's a really good book. I would definitely encourage you to read it. There's also a quiz that you can take on her website, which tells you the type of tendency, the type of personality that you are. You would probably not be surprised to learn that 40% of the population are obligers. Okay, and that is what I fall into. And the definition of an obliger is it obliger? Obliger? I'm not sure. But either way, you are happy to fulfill expectations for other people, but not so good at following through for yourself. So you will always put other people first and do whatever it is that they need from you before doing what it is that you need for yourself. And I honestly believe that this is where a lot of teachers ultimately suffer, because you are so concerned about doing things for everybody else and give that you don't ever protect any of that time for yourself and have that ability to say, actually, no, I can't do whatever it is you're asking me to do because I'm doing this, that and the other. You don't even need to give a reason either, do you? Okay, sometimes the word no is an okay sentence on its own. It doesn't need anything else to go with it. So how do we tackle this problem of not being able to say no, not being able to set boundaries and putting ourselves first? Well, that's a good question. And I refer back to something I talked about in last week's episode, which was the oxygen mask on an aeroplane. If you've ever been on an aeroplane and watched that demonstration at the beginning whilst they're taxiing around and before you take off, the air stewards and stewardesses tell you, if the oxygen masks fall down, make sure you put yours on first before you help anybody else. And honestly, you need to remember that. If you don't look after you and protect you and your boundaries, there's no way you can be the best that you want to be for other people. So looking after yourself should be a priority, not an afterthought. It's really important to set those boundaries, because if you don't, long term, it's going to have a massive impact, not only on your mental health, but also your physical health. Now, I experienced this earlier on this year. So I'd handed my notice in February, and just before the Easter holidays, when I was due to finish, I suffered a really awful virus that I don't even know what it did, but it completely wiped me out for about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks actually, thinking about it. But it affected my ears, and then it just drained all of my energy. And I think ultimately that virus and that illness that I suffered was due to the fact that I was completely burnt out. I didn't have any energy left for anybody else because I've spent my entire teaching career putting other people first and also putting my family first. So it's really important, isn't it, to stay in good health. And in order to do that, you need to prioritise your health, both mental and physical. And having those boundaries is going to enable you to do that. I've been speaking to some old colleagues and friends this week who are teachers and asking them what they need in order to live a happier and kind of more fulfilled life. And the general consensus amongst most of them was time. I need more time. I need more time to get the jobs done that I've got on my to-do list. I need more time to be able to spend with my family. I just need more time to get everything done. Now, everybody in the world has the same amount of time. You've got the same amount of hours in the day and the same amount of days in the week. But it's up to you how you want to spend that time. Now, quite often when we say we haven't got time, is actually we haven't prioritised our time. So you've still got the same amount of time as everybody else. It's how you choose to use that time as to then how you feel at the end of the week, what you've achieved, what you've done, how you've relaxed, how you've spent your time. So I want you to really think about this week that you've just done. How much of that time from last week have you spent doing what you wanted to do? Have a think about it. I'm guessing probably not as much time as you've spent doing things for other people. So herein lies one of our initial problems, is how you choose to use your time and what you give your time to. So I want you to think about this next week coming up. How are you going to spend that time and prioritise your time in order to feel better this time next week about what you've done with your time? Now, one of my friends that I spoke to said she priorities a Sunday. So she doesn't do any schoolwork on a Sunday. Sunday is a family day. I love that. If you can say that that day is going to be my family day and that's the time I'm going to spend doing what I want to do, then you need to be able to protect that time. Don't let anybody else impact that time and make you do something on that day that you don't want to do. Okay? Set your boundaries and stick to them. That's so important. It's all very well saying, yeah, brilliant, I'm going to do this on this day. And then when it comes to it, actually, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, so I'll do that first. And then you don't get time to do the thing that you've said you want to do because you haven't prioritised it. So make sure this coming week that whatever time you've set out and whatever boundaries you've created, you stick to them. Okay? That's really important. I want you to have a go at doing that this week. Now, for me, working from home is something that's been a big change this year. So as a teacher, you're quite often used to just going straight into school and you've got your space in school where you get your work done. But when you come home, where are you doing your extra work when you're working at home? Do you have a set space that you sit at to work so that when you've finished, you can stand up and walk away and leave the work where it is? That's something I've had to learn to do this year. So I've got an office set up now in my music room. I've got my desk all set out, and that's where I get my work done. When I've finished, I can stand up, close my laptop, and walk away from my work. It is much more difficult doing that running your own business because obviously you've still got your phone pinging and things like that. But you have to be strong with yourself to say, right, that's finished now, move on, I'm doing something else. And if you can do that when you're working at home, so if you're planning your lessons or you're marking or whatever it is that you're catching up with at home, doing that in a designated space will help you to then stand up when it's time and walk away and leave it where it is. Try it this week and see if it makes you feel any better. Now, nobody can make extra time, but you can make better use of your time and get things done more efficiently and more quickly, which will then save you some time. So if you haven't used ChatGPT yet, that could be something that could save you time and effort this week. Have a look into it. I've used it for wording emails. I've even used it to create a timetable for my day. So now I'm not stuck with a school-based timetable. I've asked it to create me a work-based timetable. It's so clever and it can really offer you some really fast, quick solutions to things that you need doing. So if you've got to word a letter, You're going on a school trip, you're organising something, ask ChatGPT to write it for you. I mean, you don't have to take that as your finished final letter, but you could use that as a basis to then tweak it and change the information and make it sound like it's a letter that's been worded completely by you. It's not cheating. It's just being clever with your time and using what's available to save you time. If you need to draft an email, you could ask it to do that. When I was teaching, I actually asked it to write me a complete set of 6 weeks worth of lessons based on a Samba unit that I was creating. Now, some of the ideas were fantastic. And I thought, oh yeah, you could use that piece of music to go into there, and I could use that resource into there. Some of it was not so useful. But it gave me a starting point from which to work. And it definitely saved me time on creating all of that myself, which as teachers, we're more than capable of doing, but it takes time. So why not use that as a starting point? It's a brilliant resource. Absolutely love it. And whilst we're talking about technology, how many of you check your school emails on your phone? That's something, if we're thinking about boundaries, that you could change. If those emails coming through on your phone set off your anxiety and stress you out, take them off. You do not have to have your school emails coming through to your personal device. It isn't necessary, and if it's causing you stress in any way at all, turn it off. Set a time where you're going to check your emails. Have that time protected so that any other emails that come through, you're not aware of them until you check them at that time. Hopefully little things like that will help you to relax when you're not in work mode. I know that's a bit of an issue for some teachers. I've got some friends that really find it difficult to switch off and not have that constant anxiety about school and about work. But having your emails coming through to your phone is something you can control, which then allows you to switch off a little bit and not have that constant kind of ping coming through when you do get emails outside of work time. One of the things I really enjoy doing is my bullet journal. Now, if you've not heard of a bullet journal, it's basically a plain notebook. And each month I design how I would like my diary to look and the things I would like to include on each week's page. Now, every week in my bullet journal, I always have a space for my to-do list, which is constant. It's never ending, and I have never completed everything on my to-do list, which for somebody that likes to finish jobs, I find very frustrating sometimes. I like to be able to tick everything off and say, yep, super, it's all done. But as an adult, as a teacher, as a parent, that to-do list is never going to be finished and completed. So what I've tried to do in my recent bullet journal weeks is have 2 to-do lists. So I've got one list that is urgent. It needs doing as soon as possible, and those things on that list need prioritising. I've then got a second list, which are things that still need doing. There's still things on my to-do list, but they're not quite as urgent as the other list. So prioritising what needs doing right now can help you to then use the time that you've got available in order to get done those things that need doing urgently. So for my mind, I like the fact that I know these things need doing right now, as soon as you can, when you've got time, get those done. And then that secondary list of it still needs doing, but I could possibly leave that until tomorrow or maybe even the next day. It's something that can wait to have some time when I've got it to address those things. Now, one thing I was never very good at while I was teaching was saying no to people, which we just discussed earlier on. But saying no to somebody isn't you rejecting them or rejecting what they're asking you to do. It's actually a protection for you and your time. So sometimes when we're asked to do things, we physically don't have the time to do it. We don't have the resources to do it. And actually, it is okay to say no. It's only something that I've recently learned as I'm getting a bit older and maybe a little bit more confident, that actually I don't have to say yes to everything that's offered to me. This has been particularly evident in business things. There's lots of people that have said, oh, do you fancy doing this? Oh, what about that? And you have to learn to say, I'm sorry, now's not the right time. That's not something I can take on at the moment. When you're teaching, I think because you are always so concerned about what other people have got on their plate, Sometimes you offer to do things, or sometimes somebody asks you to do something and you immediately say yes without really thinking through what that's going to entail. So next time somebody asks you to do something, really think before you give an answer as to whether A, it's going to be beneficial for you. Is it something that will, bring you joy or offer you anything else other than taking away your time? And then also B, if you say yes to helping out a friend and doing something for them, is there something that you could ask of them in return? Could you exchange the things that you're asking each other to do so that if you're doing something for them, ask them to do something for you? I've always been a very independent person, and asking other people for help isn't really something I'm ever very comfortable with. I'm getting better at it, but it's something that I've had to work on because ultimately I've always preferred to do things myself. Because if you want a job doing, do it yourself. And if you want it doing the way you want it done, it's easier to do it yourself, isn't it? But actually sometimes working with other people and asking them for help is the best way to get things done. So don't be afraid to ask others for help, because actually it really does benefit you and them. So I want you to think about this week, something that you can do to create a boundary in your life this week that protects some of the time that you've got for yourself. So whether that is saying, right, by 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm not going to be doing anything else. That's it. I'm finished. I'm done. If it's not done by 6 o'clock, then it will have to wait until the following day. If you've prioritised those things on your to-do list and done the urgent things that need doing now, then the rest of those things on your to-do list can wait till after 6 o'clock, till the next day, till you're ready to attack them with some more energy. It could be that this week you say, right, on Saturday, we are going to do something as a family, or you're going to meet up with some friends, and that time is going to be protected. You're not going to do anything else other than meet up with friends and family and spend some time together. Set yourself a bit of a mini goal this week. Where is your boundary going to be? What are you going to do to protect the time that you've got and your mental, physical health for this week? Now, some of you might have seen on my social media this week that I'm going to be launching a membership group for the Teacher's Compass, which I'm so excited about because I really want to build a community of teachers and TAs who are all kind of like-minded. Maybe some of you are really struggling and could just do with speaking to somebody that understands the situation you are in. This is what our membership group is going to be all about. So I'm going to be posting some things on my social media over the next few weeks, telling you a little bit more about our membership and what it's going to involve, what it's going to include. And I hope that some of you listening that are thinking, I really could do with jumping into a community group of like-minded teachers and TAs who know what I'm going through, then I really hope this is something you think might be for you. It's going to be really good. I'm really excited about it. As always, if you've got any questions or you feel like you really want to talk to somebody about what you're experiencing, then please do get in touch. My inbox is always open. You can get in touch with me on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram. Just send me a message and we can have a chat. Right, have a great week. Don't forget to set those boundaries and stick to them. Be strong and do it for you. You are entitled to live a happy and joyful life, and that is what we're aiming to get for all teachers and TAs. So have a fab week, and I'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Teacher's Compass. If you found this episode helpful, click on the link in the show notes for some more resources and support. Don't forget to leave a review on whichever app you choose to listen to us on. Your feedback helps us to reach more teachers just like you. See you next time.